Well, there is hope, and I'll say this: his name is Matas Buzelis, and they worked out. I will say the leadership that this current group shows, the attitude of this current group. Take the front office away from it. Take your feelings of Billy Donovan, how you feel about him, good coach, bad coach, whatever it is. The leadership this group has is tremendous. First of all, we could not believe the weight that Matas put on, all muscle. And basically, he was unstoppable in the LA workouts. He now has kind of taken another year to figure out his body, a more powerful body now, a more powerful build. His ball handling is ridiculous. He compared him to Giannis, and, Io doesn't throw names out there a lot.
And here's the question. So, out of all the teams that you've covered, whether it's Ozzie and Kenny fighting, whether it's
Right.
Tibbs and Gar and to some extent Pax, Jimmy Butler stuff, all the craziness, Jim Boylan, is this the least amount of hope you've seen for any of those teams, or are we just caught in our moment?
No, I mean, the Boylan, once we kind of got a grasp of what players were saying, the Boylan thing we know is headed right into a mountainside. That was low of the low. As long as with the White Sox, I mean, that was the biggest circus by far. I mean, the stuff we probably wrote and reported maybe half of what was actually going on, because a lot of it was so crazy and so nuts. And if you wrote it, you couldn't even source it because it only went back to one person. And then do you want to go ahead and burn that one bridge because this person's such a great source? And so there was so much stuff that people would not believe went on with a professional organization. The Ozzie Kenny years and the stuff that went on with Kenny Williams and the pettiness was unbelievable. It was a frat house in Utica. It was Delta Tau Delta.
So when the Joe Cowley book comes out, what is the best story that you are able to tell publicly of all of those years that just represent the chaos under a Jerry Reinsdorf team?
It has feds involved, so I don't know if I'm allowed to speak on it in detail. But
let's do this.
There was some juicy stuff that at the Sun-Times we already had written, and we were waiting for it to go down, and it didn't go down exactly as it should have. So those stories will ever stay on laptops and away from federal hands. Put it this way. There was a time where Chris DeLuca, my sports editor, and I were so paranoid about what we were writing about and talking about that we weren't even using our names on the phone.
All right, what about then?
What was your fake name, Joe?
Oh,
I'm trying to remember what it was. I may have been Joe Black because that was Canseco's alias on the road, and I love that.
That's great. And so what like publicly, one that it has gotten out that maybe not a lot of people have heard, what then is next? One that you could share? The best story, the feel-good story is the Jeff Blum Uribe first encounter. First of all, Uribe didn't know any of his teammates' names. The closest he was Burley was Bailey, and that was as close. One time he said Makoviak, and we were shocked. So he did figure out Makoviak, and that was Uribe was the best to cover. And I think it's known throughout the league. If you remember when he was in Cleveland, he kind of got hit with the ball in the knee area, but it still hit an area of a man who was given something special from God.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was Uribe's. That was his thing, and they trade for Jeff Blum. Blum comes from San Diego. He's got his wife who looks like a Barbie doll. He looks like a Ken doll. It's their first night in the hotel, and they think there's a domestic dispute next door. And so to make a long story short, his alias was Johnny Utah from Point Break.
Sure.
So Juan Uribe used no alias. He was Juan Uribe. And so they were afraid to call security. They found out the next day that they were next to Uribe, and he came out. He said, "Hey, new guy, don't worry. You hear noise from my room, she okay." And that's how he met Juan Uribe.
Have you heard
So it was
that?
not a
I've never
domestic
heard
dispute.
that, no.
It was not a domestic dispute. It was
the gift that God gave Juan Uribe.
Wow, I don't know how to. You know what, Joe? Let's just call it a show because I don't think I've got a question that I actually, can feel like would answer the bell here.
Outstanding.
I love the fact that he addressed him as new guy. Hey, new guy.
New guy. There's so many good things to that. All right, so
you follow that.
I don't know. So I polled, and the reason I brought up the hopeless nature of this, Joe, is the one I don't know how well you know me as a fan, but I grew up going to Bulls games.
Job. How about that?
I see the swing set. Confession.
And for the first year of my life, I boycotted the Bulls. It was an active boycott. I wouldn't take my kids. Free tickets, paid tickets, whatever. We weren't going, and I'm going to continue that because I just feel like when you don't have hope as a fan, you have nothing. And even when it's fake hope, at least there's something to grab onto. Is there any hope right now for the Chicago Bulls?
Well, there is hope. And I'll say this. His name is Matas Buzelis. And, they worked out. I will say the leadership that this current group shows, the attitude of this current group, take the front office away from it. Take your feelings of Billy Donovan, how you feel about him, good coach, bad coach, whatever it is. The leadership this group has is tremendous, and they quickly, before the season ended, decided that, hey, we have to get serious about this even more, so we're all going to get together in L.A. early in the summer, and they did that a couple weeks ago. Io, obviously, because of the shoulder surgery, was the only one who didn't participate but was one of the guys there and watching from the sidelines. And I talked to Io a couple weeks ago on the Cap podcast that I do with Cap, and he said, first of all, we could not believe the weight that Matas put on, all muscle. And basically, he was unstoppable in the L.A. workouts. He now has kind of taken another year to figure out his body, a more powerful body now, a more powerful build. His ball handling is ridiculous. He compared him to Giannis. And, Io doesn't throw names out there a lot. Now, that's obviously way out of the depths of what Bulls fans should be thinking. But when you think of his height, his size, now added weight, and his ball handling skills for a guy that is legit 6'10", you could see why there is something to be excited about. So, I think the draft tomorrow night has some intrigue in it. But besides that, the problem is the front office. We are in year 5 or 6. I've lost count, and I still don't think they understand, A, that an exact plan, and B, how to execute that plan. I mean, they talk a good game. They say the right – I don't think they say the right thing.
No.
I just don't think they understand what they need to build a championship roster. It seems they're more just happy with the idea of asses are on the seats. We check that box, and we're slowly feeling like we're getting better, and that's good enough under the Bulls' philosophy of edging out of mediocrity.
Joe, is the drafting of Matas, is it a sign of positive things to come, or just a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and again?
Yeah. I mean, you look at their draft record. You just say what you want. As badly as I critiqued Gar Pax, they didn't. I mean, the Marcus Teague thing was a catastrophe because that's when they pulled the power away from Tibbs. And Gar admitted that Calipari duped him into taking Marcus Teague, because obviously Calipari had he had a process that he wanted. Look at, I got another first round pick. So yeah, that was horrendous because Tibbs and the whole coaching staff wanted Draymond Green, and what they could have done with Draymond Green would have been ridiculous. So, but you say what you want about them, they hit on a lot of guys, and those guys develop too. So what Artūras has done is complete opposite. It's been, I think for the most part, terrible drafting. Matas might be their biggest hit, but again, Matas was projected to be a top 5 pick. He just happened to slide because the draft was 1 through 16. It was the same guy, and they just happened to get, I think, the right guy that a year earlier was considered, like I said, a top pick. So I'm very concerned with their ability to judge talent, besides the other things too.
So what is the truth about the contract extension conversation with all of them?
Artūras he had his contract extended months ago. I wrote that last week that it wasn't like it all came down within the last couple days, and then they turned towards Billy. Artūras was first. He got his months ago. I think they let Marc probably kind of sniff around the league to see if there was any openings. They want to do the best by him, and then once they realized there was nothing, Marc was done. And they had told Billy, none of this is a surprise. They had told Billy after the season they were extending him. Artūras already had his, and it's just kind of it isn't like because New York called. I was told by several people it wasn't because New York called. Billy wants nothing to do with the Knicks. Say what you want right now about the Bulls. The coach and the front office are in sync, which, I can't say the first 7-8 years of covering this team that was the case. That was never the case with the White Sox. Never, ever. Going back to Jerry Manuel and Schuler, then Manuel and Kenny Williams, they were never in step. I will say that the comfort Billy has with this front office is probably like very few coach front offices relationships throughout the NBA. So why would he leave that for the total clown show that the Knicks now look like they are after a couple years of resembling a good organization and a well-run organization? They went back to being the Knicks.
Which is weird because, Billy was with Sam Presti, so you think he knows a good general manager when he sees one, Joe. So if we all know that AK is not doing a good job, and there's nothing there, he doesn't represent the team well. He hasn't had a lot of hits at all. What does Michael Reinsdorf see in him?
Well, I think it was Michael's first major decision since he was empowered. And Michael's whole thing is, everyone I talk to, everyone around the league, and I will say this. At the time he was hired, there was not one person that said bad hire. Okay? Great hire. But again, when you hire someone like that and you promote them, there's a lot of unknowns. What we found out quickly, whether you want to say it was the Patrick Williams, to me it was more about the extensions and the philosophy he had. He's caught in this philosophy is we don't need stars, we just need depth. And there's something to be said about that in the way the NBA is now moving. But at the end of the day, you still need that dude. It's nice. You don't need your big three anymore, but you need your big one at least. And then you need a nice Robin to complement that. They think they could just build 1 through 11, 1 through 12, and be the UNLV running Rebels from back in the day where they just run, overwhelm you, wear you down. And the other error in that philosophy is if you watch the playoffs, the running teams, obviously, Oklahoma City and Indiana play with high pace, but it was the physical teams. And they're not building a physical team at all. And that's the other thing I think he's missing out on. So they have no superstar. They have no physicality. They have changed the shot profile to more three-pointers. Great. Check that box. But come playoff time, it's a whole different animal. So I think they're building more about the regular season. And again, maybe that's the bar. Maybe that's the bar that the Reinsdorfs want. Just get us to the playoffs. At best, get us a home series. We know there's always going to be butts in the seat at the United Center. They're all going to be coming to watch the statue and take pictures with it in the atrium. So, and that's it. It's if the Lakers just sold for $10 billion, what are the Bulls worth?
Yeah. Well, and that you lead me perfectly into my next question. We're talking to Joe Cowley from the Sun-Times about the Bulls. Sox fans are excited. They're going to have to wait a while, it seems like, that Jerry is finally handing the team over, selling his portion. And what about the Bulls? We've always heard that he wants to keep that in the family because it's a moneymaker. Is that still the case, Joe, from what you're hearing? Do you believe that the Reinsdorfs will own this team for a while going forward?
100%. That's going to be the family business. From everyone I've talked to, it's a capped league, and that's what Jerry always wanted in baseball. If baseball would have capped within the last 10 years or any of the work stoppages, I don't think the White Sox would be for sale at all. Jerry's big thing is you can't make money, the money you want to make, in a sport that's not capped. And since baseball wasn't capped, the writing was on the wall that eventually he was going to sell the White Sox. The Bulls are a keeper. Just look what Boston sold for, and then look what the Lakers just sold for. They'd be dumb to even think about selling. It's just the NBA teams are just cash cows, and and the money that's going to be coming in. And don't forget, they're going to expand. There's going to be an expansion fee for probably two more teams. I would probably kick Minnesota to the east and then probably put Vegas and Seattle in the west, is my guess. And there's going to be billions of dollars in expansion fees that the owners all cut up. And then there's going to be two more teams, so there's going to be even more money that way. So, it'd be dumb for them to even think about selling. No, this will always be a Reinsdorf-owned organization as far as I can see in my lifetime.
Joe, what do you expect them to do tomorrow night at 12?
It's interesting. If they take a guard, if they take the kid from Illinois, if they go with Ior Demon, then that tells me they feel really good that there's something in place for Lonzo Ball or Kobe White. If they go front court, which they need to do, whether it's Murray or whether whatever they want to do, from everything I've heard, they want a guy that fits their style. Whether it's Asen Newell and his ability to run the floor and be an athlete, they want someone that's going to fit their style of play. That's why the Derek Queen thing. I think a lot of people, Derek Queen, great offensive mind. He would have to have done something in the private workouts that I don't foresee or other scouts don't foresee, because by all indications, he is as unathletic a big man as you can get in the first round. So why do you want to be a high-paced team and take a guy that's going to be an anchor and drag you down? So I'll be surprised if it's Derek Queen, but guess what? Artūras always tends to surprise me, and it's not a good surprise.
No, ever. Joe, so you with Kobe, which you just mentioned, we were talking a lot about Kobe White yesterday. They have decisions to make. First on Giddey as a restricted free agent, and then I think Kobe's a free agent in 2 years. I want to say
next year, after one more year.
So like these are nice players, but I don't know if they're nice players to have on that big deal. So what do you foresee happening with those two?
Yeah, I mean, they're great pieces if you had that dude, and they don't have that dude. The Giddey deal is going to get done, and it's going to be $30 million a year. He didn't make that trade, and is watching that parade today in Oklahoma City to not keep Giddey and give him what Giddey wants. And to me, it comes down to, do they let the market dictate the price and let him go explore and see what the market does? But then you have some ill feelings that could be there. I mean, Zach LaVine, say what you want, he never got over what the Bulls did to him with Sacramento, restricted free agency, and he carried that into this front office. He left not trusting this front office. So I don't think they want to do that with Josh Giddey. Not that Giddey keeps that kind of stuff in his head. But at the same time, I think out of good faith, they're going to go ahead and give him a deal before he gets to market. Kobe White, I think they're going to wait on, see what happens. If they can't trade him this offseason, I think he could be. They'll kick it around, but $40 million a year, because that's what Kobe White's going rate's going to be. That's tough. You'll have $70 million plus Patrick Williams. You'll have about $89 million in just three guys, and not one of them is that dude. Yeah. Not one of them is an all-star. I mean, that's bad. That's malpractice of a roster. So that's why I could see them trying to move off Kobe this summer. And it's no reflection on Kobe. I think he's been great as far as improving his skills. He's just not that dude, and they need to figure out a way to get draft picks and get that dude.